Hey guys, this is Jeremy, and this is District 14. I have named this channel District 14 because I am a huge fan of the Hunger Games. I would probably go so far as to say that it's one of my favorite series. Now, I'm a big Harry Potter fan. We do Harry Potter videos every Wednesday, but the Hunger Games, I like it, I think, maybe a little bit better. I am going to do different videos on the Hunger Games. We'll do some fan theories, headcanon videos where I talk about what I believe, even if it's not explicitly written in the books. Some deep dives, my commentary, my thoughts. And today, the video I want to do is about how there was an opportunity that I think Suzanne Collins missed in the second book that would have changed things dramatically, but I think it would have made a better book. Now, as you can see, I have taken lots of notes. I am a note taker at heart. That's what I do for a living. I teach people how to read more effectively and get what they want from their reading for studying purposes. I typically don't take notes whenever I read for pleasure, but I did for this because I wanted to make sure I remembered everything. So, this is what I think should have happened in the Hunger Games. Technically, this is what I think should have happened in Catching Fire. So, just to quickly recap, in Catching Fire, President Snow wanted to punish Katniss for inciting, well, she did not do on purpose, but she incited rebellion in the districts, and he wanted to punish her for this. His punishment was to make the 75th Hunger Games, the third Quarter Quell, targeted at her. Now, in the Hunger Games, every 25 games, the first Quarter Quell at 25, the second Quarter Quell at 50, and then the third Quarter Quell at 75. They're special games. Something big has happened. In the first Quarter Quell, every district had to vote in the tributes. In the second Quarter Quell, there were twice as many tributes. We don't know what would have happened in the third Quarter Quell. The movie shows us one thing. The movie, especially in the deleted scene, shows us that he changed his idea for what to do based upon Katniss. The book doesn't really say that. It kind of implies it, I think. But he made it so that the tributes were reaped from the existing victors. Now, in the Hunger Games, if you win the Hunger Games, then you have a life of leisure and luxury. You don't have to fight to the death anymore, except in the third Quarter Quell. This, I think, clearly, most people think, was to punish Katniss. I think this decision he made shows that President Snow did not understand what would have truly punished Katniss. Now, we know from both the book and the movie that it obviously made her very sad to go back into the games, into the arena. It clearly devastated her, but it wasn't the best punishment. It made her angry, and she fought back. I think if he had done this, he would have gotten much closer to breaking her. I think the third Quarter Quell, the twist should have been the tributes will be reaped from the families of the victors. Now, this is clearly not what Suzanne Collins had in mind. We had characters like Haymitch and Joanna who have no family because President Snow has killed them all. So this was obviously something that was never in the cards for her. But I think if Snow had done this, for as upset as Katniss was as going into the arena, to have her sister, Prim, go into the arena for the 75th Hunger Games, that would have destroyed her. I mean, she literally signed up for death in the 74th Hunger Games. She just happened to win to protect her sister. Now, here's why I think this would have been such a good idea. First of all, Katniss volunteered to save Prim in 74. She then became a victor. She can't volunteer for her again. So if Prim had been forced to go into the games, there's not a thing Katniss could have done. We know that Peeta had brothers, even though Peeta would have been 17 in this series, in this Hunger Games. We can make a few assumptions. One, he might have had a brother that was 18 and still eligible, or we could take out the criteria for age. that was taken out with this quell anyway. Some of the victors who went in, Mags was in her 80s. So it could have been like, all right, any relative of a victor could go in. Maybe even her mom could have been in the Reaping. But regardless, I think it should have been Prim. What we could have gotten instead, if Suzanne Collins had done this, was we could have seen, once she came to terms with it, we could have seen Katniss getting Prim ready for the games. By Mockingjay, we discover that Prim is a mature, tough kid in her own right. She's not a hunter, but she's strong mentally, and Katniss could have gotten her strong physically. One thing that I would have loved, to the point that I hope we have a Hunger Games book that addresses this at some point, I want to see the games from a mentor perspective. Now, we obviously have that in Ballad, but that's the 10th Hunger Games. That's the prequel that just came out. That doesn't count. I want to see a current mentor in the current status of the games mentor a tribute, and we could have seen Katniss mentor her little sister. I mean, frankly, I just want to see a game from the mentor's perspective. I think this would be huge, really interesting, really give a different perspective, and it would have also given us a lot more sympathy for how Haymitch turned into an alcoholic. Being a mentor has got to be a terrible, terrible job. Katniss alluded to this at the end of the Hunger Games after she won. Imagine having to do that for her little sister. There's another way that it could have been handled in the book as well. We could have seen the games from Katniss's perspective as the mentor, or in like part 3 of this book, or even part 2, or divided up however you want, Suzanne Collins could have switched narrators. Rather than have the story told from Katniss's perspective, perhaps as Katniss says goodbye to her on the morning she goes into the games in the hovercraft, maybe then we switch to Prim's perspective. There are some books that have done this well. I am not a huge Twilight fan. They'll come up on this channel at some point. I actually plan to read them in the future from a different mental perspective than just reading them for pleasure. But one thing that Stephenie Meyer did well in Twilight was when Bella was giving birth, that entire story was told from Jacob's perspective. And we could have had parts 1 and 2, Katniss getting her sister ready, then part 3, as the games start, we switch to Prim. And then we're still seeing the games live from Prim's perspective. Now, we know that victors have had their children go into the games. In fact, to the point that I think Katniss commented that it happens so often that it's clearly not just chance. This is clearly being driven that way. The only real con that I can think of from a story perspective about Prim going in, and Suzanne Collins certainly could have written it away, that we know the Capitol loved the tributes, and there was some fight, some debate in the Capitol about should these games even go on. Now, of course, they still did because Snow wanted them. Even though Joanna makes the comment that Prim is loved by the Capitol, I don't think there would have been nearly as much Capitol pushback with Tribute's kids going in. And I think this might have made the rebellion that took place in the Capitol, with some people actually jumping ship and going to fight in the rebellion, that might have made that a little less likely to happen. But again, Suzanne Collins is clearly a gifted author. She could have easily written it so that the rebellion happened exactly as it is. Now, if Prim had gone into the games, would she have survived? We know the Capitol loves her. We know that Katniss loves her. The rebellion, let's assume the rebellion still would have happened. I think a case could be made that Prim would have survived long enough to have gotten rescued from the arena. I do believe the rebellion still would have happened. I think that Haymitch may not have told Katniss about the rebellion, just as he didn't while she was in the arena. Now, the reason why I think Prim would have to survive, Katniss, she could not have become the Mockingjay if she was still distraught over Prim's death. So I mean, Prim could still be rescued. You know, it's one thing for a victor, Katniss in this case, or the other victors, to be willing to die for their cause. Would the victors have been as willing for their children to die for the cause? And I think that's something that would have been pretty interesting to explore. Like we know that Cecilia from District 8, I believe, we know she had children. We saw Effie grieve Cecilia going into the games while her children were hanging on to her. Well, in this rewrite, Cecilia's kids would have gone into the game. We know, after the fact, that Cecilia was willing to put her life on the line for the rebellion. Would she have put her kids' lives on the line? Katniss certainly would not have put Prim's life on the line, which is why I think Katniss wouldn't have been involved. So a lot could have been very different without so many of the victors in the 75th games not being willing to sacrifice themselves to keep Katniss and now Prim alive. Here's the thing though, Suzanne Collins is such an amazing author. I think she could have easily written it in a way to keep Prim alive, and maybe even told the tributes, hey, you've got to keep Prim alive. We're going to break you out as soon as we can. The rebellion is bigger than all of us. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? I really think that by not having Prim more at risk until President Coin came into the picture, I think we missed some great drama that we could have otherwise had. What do you think? Did President Snow take the right tack in choosing to send Katniss back into the arena? Or could he have destroyed her a lot quicker and maybe even squashed the rebellion by somehow making sure to send Prim into the arena? Leave a comment down below. Thanks so much for watching my first video. Every Monday I plan to release a theory about the Hunger Games. Wednesdays will be about Harry Potter. Fridays will be a podcast where my wife and I discuss various books that we're reading in a deep dive. And we're starting with The Hunger Games. I'll also do book reviews as I read them. And our very first book review is going to be The Last Vampire, which I plan to post tomorrow, Tuesday, July 28th. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy reading.